Welcome, Jessica, to Unscripted with Alex. Thank you for joining me this morning.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So today we've got Jessica James from Nurture Her Boutique, and you're going to be sharing your pregnancy and your birth story with us and a little bit about your postpartum recovery.
Yeah.
So let's dive straight into it and start at the beginning, getting pregnant. Was it hard for you, or did it sort of just happen?
It definitely didn't just happen. We tried for about 9 months. So we got married, went on our honeymoon, within the year. And then when we came back, we were ready to start trying. Thought because we'd been avoiding falling pregnant for 8 years that it would automatically happen. But I have a bit of a hormone imbalance, so I don't make much progesterone, and I was quite stressed at my job, so it took quite a while for it to happen, but we got there.
That's good. Yeah, we are under that impression. We're only just saying on the last episode, actually, that I recorded, that we put so much time and effort into our childhood or our teens or whenever we're sexually active to not get pregnant.
Yeah.
Childhood. Hopefully no one's doing it that young.
No.
Let's say adulthood, but early adulthood.
Yeah.
I feel like we were children then because we're so much older now. Yeah, to not get pregnant because we think it's just going to happen. But yeah.
I spent way too many years taking pregnancy tests when I 100% would not have been pregnant.
I know, don't we just spend so much money wasting those things?
Yeah.
Anyway, so you eventually did fall pregnant after, did you say 9 months?
9 months, yeah.
And so what was that feeling? Or tell me, how did you find out? Was there...
Well, the month that we fell pregnant, my husband, he's FIFO, 1 week on, 1 week off. So obviously that was a factor as well to not falling pregnant straight away. And when we did fall pregnant, he wasn't meant to be home when I was ovulating, but my pop passed away, which was it was expected, it was happening. And then, so he passed away. I got Jason to fly to Perth to meet me, and coincidentally, I was on the last day of ovulation. Not that I wanted to have sex, but I was like, well, we really can't miss this month if we have the chance. So we gave it a go, and of course that was the month because I was certain that we would not fall pregnant because stress was such a big factor for me not falling pregnant. I thought, well, I'm stressed, my pop's just passed away, I'm upset. So, a week or 10 days later when, you're not meant to take the pregnancy test yet, but I was starting to feel nauseous and everything, so took the test the day before Jason got home from work and it was positive. So I was shocked. And I don't know if I really believed it. I think I was a little bit in denial. But it was because I was by myself, Didn't really have that person to do the happiness with, on the day. But that was my own fault for taking it so early.
I would probably do the same. It's just that curiosity of, not knowing. What were the symptoms that you were sort of getting at? Was it just the nausea, or did you just have a feeling?
I had a migraine for about 5 days straight because I get migraines, so... The 5 days straight migraine plus the nausea. I don't actually get nausea with my migraines, which is lucky. But the combination of those two, I was like, this is not my normal migraine and nothing is working. And I didn't want to keep taking my migraine medication if I was pregnant. So that was kind of why I also rushed into taking the test.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose that could potentially be a hormone. Probably.
It is.
Yeah, the hormone change just triggered off that migraine.
Yeah.
Do you commonly, this is sort of digressing a little bit, but do you commonly get migraines around period time?
Yeah, I get them when I'm ovulating and when I have my period. Yeah.
So most people can check temperature. Yay.
Yeah.
Most can check if they're ovulating based on temperature changes and tracking. You're like, no, I've got a migraine. I am ovulating.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, that really is quite sexy then, isn't it?
Let's go to the bedroom. If only they fixed migraines.
So you were on your own at home, you went and did the test.
Yeah.
What was running through your mind?
I started planning a little box that I was going to get Jason the next day because he was flying in at night time. I had the day of work, so I knew I had my lunch break here in Bustleton, and I was, just planning straight away how I was going to tell Jason. So then the next morning, got to work, went on my lunch break probably about 10 o'clock because I was too excited. Went and bought him a little onesie, a baby name book, even though we had our name picked already. I don't know why I got that. I think I was trying to get anything I could find. And one of those cheesy slogan shirts that says world's best dad or my dad does big farts or something like that.
That's so good.
Yeah.
And so he came home the next day, was it? So you didn't have to wait too long?
He came home that night, so I gave it to him when he got home.
And what was his face like?
He was excited. He was shocked as well because we just both didn't think that it was a possibility that month. We're like, oh, typical. The month that you literally put zero pressure on it is when it happens.
That's so interesting how that happens. I wonder if just by vocalising, oh, well, I'm stressed, it's not going to happen, that sort of relieves some stress.
Yeah. And because it wasn't work stress or anything else, it was like a different type of stress. So it was, I then was able to label it as that and, deal with it.
Yeah, that's interesting. You could label it as, going through grief and knowing exactly what's causing it, whereas in work scenario and everyday life, we just go through the motions.
Well, you can't really stop it either. I still had to go to work and do the job that I was finding stressful. It's not like you can take a few days off saying I'm stressed, whereas Pop's passed away, yes, take a few days off, deal with it. So actually process the stress.
Yeah, that's interesting. And be around friends and family and connect with people.
Yeah.
So how was your pregnancy? How were you feeling throughout? Like, did that nausea last through...
Yeah, I was nauseous, but I never vomited, so lucky in that. But I was nauseous for the first 12 weeks, maybe really bad for the first 8 weeks, then, mediumly for the next 4. For the first 16 weeks, I had a migraine or headache every single day, and you're not allowed to take... Well, I thought at the time, when I take Nurofen or my sumatriptan, which is the migraine medication I take. So I wasn't taking anything. So I was doing every natural remedy that, FYI, does not work, under the sun, and drinking these hydration drinks, Aquamama drinks that I found every single day. They took the edge off a little bit, but definitely... I just had them flat out for 16 weeks.
Oh, that sounds horrible.
Yeah.
Did you talk to your doctor about it?
Yeah. I went. I reckon I had an appointment every couple of weeks saying, surely there's something I can take now. Surely.
They were just wanting you to get through that first trimester at least before starting to implement some things. And at different stages in your pregnancy, you can... Well, don't take this as advice, people, even though I am a pharmacist.
You can go get, fluids and stuff.
Yeah. And different stages, they can have different forms of pain relief, and towards the end of the pregnancy, again, it changes. So, but you do need to be quite careful. Did it just all of a sudden go away then?
It did. We went up to Coral Bay with some family, and that was at 16 weeks, and I don't know if it was the release of not being at work or... just, the holiday, the sun, because it was around May, June. So it was just that little holiday got rid of my headaches. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I just want to jump back a little bit because I remember when I first did, I've only been pregnant once, when I got pregnant, and I remember messaging my one friend and being like, when am I meant to go to the doctors? What did you do? How early did you go to the doctors?
My sister had a private midwife down here. Are we allowed to?
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
she had Sam Mansfield.
Okay, I was going to say there's really just two main ones at the moment, but
so
we're
she
hoping
had
to.
Sam, so I was extremely present in her first birth, and then I was around a lot for the second baby, which she gave birth just after I'd fallen pregnant. So we had this crossover. So I knew that as soon as she was like, you better get in, message her straight away. So literally that, the week that Jason came home, I knew I was pregnant. I messaged Sam the next day. She was the next person to know after my sister.
Oh, my God,
so we went and saw her that week.
So you had Sam then as your...
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Both of them, I think, were not around when we were due in January. I think it's their holiday time. So I'm thinking next time we're planning, we are going to make sure it's not going to be when they have holidays.
Yeah, I was due the 4th of December.
Okay.
So, but had him earlier.
Yes,
but
as we
so
will.
Yeah,
we will learn why that happened. Yeah. So you did most of all your consults really with Sam?
Yeah. Yep, I only had one appointment with an obstetrician.
Okay.
And that's because you have to have one on the books, which is fine. That went well. But, I had Sam for everything else, which was amazing because I didn't feel like going to the doctors, especially with my migraines. So, it was so good to have home visits.
Yeah. So down here, the listeners would probably have heard in a couple of our episodes where we try to explain the system down here because it's different, obviously, in every place in Australia. So city compared to here as well, and over east would be a different system.
Yeah.
So down here we've got the private midwives, and you can either do shared care where you could see your GP and your private midwife.
Yeah.
If you're going to see a private midwife, like you said, you don't really need to go to the doctors other than getting that first or one consult to be on the books and in the system, so that if you were to be transferred into hospital or anything, then they also...
Yeah, and I didn't actually have a regular GP. Like, I'd only lived down here for almost 3 years by then, but I hadn't had much need to go to the doctors, so I'd always just booked whatever appointment I could get on the day. So that was also a thing. I didn't really know any GP that I personally trusted.
Yeah, you didn't have a connection with anyone.
No.
So you were able to... So that's the great thing as well about the private midwife. They come to your house, you get to build a beautiful relationship with them, and they do all of your checkups. They also send you off to do your bloods and everything, don't they?
Yes, they give you the referral to all the blood tests, ultrasounds, everything. Even to the point where, you've got some weird feeling in the middle of the night, you just message them. There was one day I was at work and I was stressing out because I felt like I hadn't felt him move that day. And I messaged her because I was working in Boston and she lives here. I was messaging her and she's like, I'm just going to come in and have a quick check. She came into my office and gave me a quick check over.
Oh, my God, that's so
pretty
good.
awesome. Yeah. Just for peace of mind.
Yeah. And so how else did you find that whole process then? Like, did you do all your planning for your birth with her? Were you planning on doing hospital or home birth?
Yeah, I was planning on hospital birth in Bustleton. So we did some... Instead of going to hospital for hospital classes, I got a few of my friends together because we were all pregnant due at the same time. So we had a little hospital lesson, I suppose, at my house with Sam leading it. So we did 2 of those on like a Sunday afternoon with the partners, and it was good because we didn't have to go into hospital and sit in the, plastic chairs. We were just on the couch with the fire on and having a cup of coffee, chatting about it.
Doesn't that sound so much better than going into the hospital and sitting in the sterile, kind of uncomfortable environment?
Yeah.
And so that's another really interesting point then. Just because you have a private midwife doesn't mean you have to do a home birth.
Yes.
You could do a hospital birth.
Yeah, I wasn't interested in a home birth.
Yeah,
I just wanted a hospital birth, but with a private midwife. I wanted to have that continuity of care and to know the person who was giving me the advice and telling me the things on the day.
Yeah, that's perfect. And so what we do learn now is that at, was it 37 plus 5 weeks, you found out you had obstetric cholestasis. I'm reading my notes so I don't get that wrong.
It's taken me probably 2 years to start saying it correctly.
So first of all, what is that?
So I'm not the best at describing it, but it is when you're, as in the mother, the liver stops processing the bile acids. I think that's what it's called. So basically it stops acting as the, detoxing organ, and then you get a build-up of bile acids in you, the mother. And it comes out in, the symptom of it is you get itchy hands and feet, mainly at night time.
That's such an interesting...
It's really rare. You don't really hear about it. I only knew about the warning of itchy hands and feet because my sister's friend had it, and she's the only other person I've ever come across that's had it. So if she hadn't told me, I wouldn't have known that that was something to alert my midwife of.
I think I had read somewhere along, when you're doing all your little researching when you're pregnant and reading all things, I did read something there about itchy hands and feet, but I never understood what that was all about.
Yeah.
So for you, was it really intense sort of itchy?
It was a slow build. I reckon at 36 weeks I got itchy hands and feet, but it was starting to warm up at night. It was November, late November. So, yeah, it was. I just thought I was sweaty. You're pregnant, you're hot, you're sweaty, can't get comfortable. I thought that was my problem. And then as the nights went on, my hands and feet just got itchier and itchier. So I started getting flannels and ice packs to put on my hands, just to hold, so I could at least get to sleep because I would be numbed. So, yeah, and then eventually I thought, okay, no, this is more than just... Because I also get eczema, so I thought as well that maybe it was just eczema starting to flare up. So then I thought at 37 weeks, I was like, no, I've got to tell Sam about this. And she booked me for a blood test that day. I had the blood test. She said my levels, I didn't have it, but if the itching increases, in 2 days' time, we'll go again for another blood test. So did that. So that was, 37 plus 2. I had the blood test that afternoon, so the next morning the results came back and, I'd gone into the zone, the red zone of having it.
That's so interesting because I assume the test that they're looking at is your liver function test.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Or like the levels of your bile in your system or something like that.
And so why the liver functions, your enzymes are going up and down, like why a couple of days before they were showing something different.
Yeah, and that is something I've not really been able to figure out either. You know, I've done my own research at home and there's no real explanation as to why it happens. Not that I've been able to find anyway. So that's interesting.
Yeah. Just on a side note, again, having itchiness at nighttime is often a sign of some liver detoxing thing going on. So that makes sense. But it can be itching anywhere, whereas in pregnancy, so in this condition, it's obviously specific to hands. Well, primarily hands and feet.
Yeah.
Did you get it anywhere else?
No, just my hands and feet, yeah.
And so what did that mean for you then in your pregnancy?
My midwife called that morning at 37 and 5. Or no, it was 37 and 6 at that point. She called that morning and said that she had already consulted with my obstetrician and that they had both decided that the only option was induction. Okay. So that was the safest option because at the time what she said, which I think is, you know, the main reason, is that the rate of stillbirth increases after 38 weeks. Which I was 2 days short of.
Oh, my gosh.
So it was a bit of a pressure cooker situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Sam basically said, obviously it was a really gentle conversation. And then, she said it either has to be tomorrow or the next day to get you in before 38 weeks.
Wow. So in your mind, you're thinking, first pregnancy, maybe I'm going to go like 41 weeks or even longer.
I was ready.
Oh, okay. So you were like, I'm over this.
Yeah.
Get it out.
I was done.
Okay. So how did you feel about that then? You were like, cool, let's go, let's do it? Or were you nervous?
I was straight into problem solve mode. We were actually in Kmart at the time getting the last minute bits and bobs because I had an inkling that it wouldn't be long. And we were also renovating our house. So my husband still had to paint our ceiling and put our floors down. We had a lot to do in that 2 weeks. That didn't eventuate.
The 2 weeks is now 2 days.
Yeah, he did an amazing job. But so I was straight away into problem solving mode. So we got the capsule fitted straight away, straight from that conversation. We stopped in and had a bit of a stretch and sweep with Sam at her home to try and see if we could bring on labour ourselves. Did not work.
I love how even it's just thrown around the stretch and sweep. Like we just had a stretch and sweep.
It was horrible. I hated the experience. I don't think we actually ended up doing it because the first 2 seconds I was like, oh, no. Induction tomorrow, let's just do that.
Yeah, and because it depends as well. Like if you're not even at all near being ready to give birth, then that is not even going to work and it won't be comfortable because your cervix is like...
She did say that it was extremely soft and ripe and I probably could actually...
Oh, really?
Go into labour before that next day.
Wow.
Yeah, she said possibly even 1 centimetre-ish.
Wow.
But hard to tell.
Okay.
But she said it was really ripe.
Okay.
So
but you just found the process too uncomfortable.
I just felt like a knife was going up there.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. So, I think it's not really explained what it is.
You just kind of think it's just a little... like a feather duster going to go and give you a little swipe up there, but it's definitely not.
No, they go up and they are trying to...
stretch it. Literally.
Yes, stretch around your cervix and pulling a bit of the membranes off to try and bring on labour. It would have to have been designed by a man. Yeah, we'll just shove something up there. We'll just bang it out.
We'll move this stuff away. Thin it out.
So that was done. You're not doing that anymore.
No.
So what was your next step?
We went home, packed the bags, got all the food ready, everything you do. I was stressing hard all day. I have a pretty low pain threshold. At least I've coined that myself. So I was really worried about the pain. And I also didn't know much information about inductions. Like Sam had told me the technical things about the process, but I just didn't know what I was going in for, you know? You never know. It's labour. You don't know it, even if it's not induction. You just don't know what's coming. And that part really stressed me out because I'm an organiser. So that night as well, when we went to bed, Jason went to sleep. I was laying in bed wide-eyed, itchy hands and feet, stressing hard, ended up having a panic attack in the shower at midnight because I wanted him to sleep because we had to drive all the way to Bunbury the next day and we're in Dunsborough. So, that's a long drive at 5 a.m. I did the nice thing and let him sleep while I was in the shower stressing. There was also nothing he could have done. After that, I feel like I released everything and I went and had 5 hours sleep, so that was something.
Yeah, so you just needed to release all of that built up tension. Yeah. And sort of leading up to this, did you go through stuff with Sam or any like hypnobirthing or anything around trying like techniques for managing pain or working through these anxieties and stresses leading up to it? Because obviously it's very common and I would say every woman would be stressing it out.
We probably did, but I don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know that I was worried the entire pregnancy, like in the back of my mind. I was just worried about how I would handle labour because of my low pain threshold. So, I think I never really let my mind go there too much. I didn't do hypnobirthing. I don't know why I didn't do it because now it's 100% something I would do. I think I just had a lot of faith in the fact that I had heard a lot of people's birth stories. I was aware of all of, the options and the ways it could go. And I knew about, the breathing techniques and if you have a clenched jaw, then you've got a clenched cervix. Like I knew all those little tidbits. So I thought, I'll be fine.
You're exactly right in what you just said. Like, you don't have to do a hypnobirthing course. You don't have to do anything. You can just gather stories and information and work through on your own. And like you said, what will be will be. And you don't know what you're going into. Yeah. And if you have some tools in your bag to try and utilise throughout your birth, then great. But, I suppose just for you it sounds like just trying to work through the emotional stress side of things.
Yeah. I didn't think that I would be mentally strong enough to stick to hypnobirthing.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to put too much pressure on the idea of no drugs because I wanted to be able to make the decision and be confident in that decision at that time and not feel like I've let myself down.
Yeah.
Or that I'd wasted $500-600 on hypnobirthing and then gone and got an epidural anyway. So I didn't want to put that pressure on myself.
Relieve yourself from that pressure. Yeah. And so, okay, now you're getting up at 5 a.m. So you had at least 5 hours sleep. That's good. So you're up early and driving to Bunbury because they would be the only place that can do it right at that time.
Yeah, by 38 weeks for induction, Okay. So
and Sam went with you?
She met us there. On the way, though, I was getting period-like cramps.
Oh.
So my back was sore and I was getting little cramps every 10 minutes. So in my head I was like, oh, great, this is good. I meant to do it today. Like, I think I'm in pre-labour. Not that I know too much about it, but, I started timing on my phone because I was like, if I can be in labour by the time I get there, I don't have to be induced, amazing. That's not what happened. But, I just was in my head, like, getting excited, which is good. I'm glad I had those pains or else I would have spent the entire drive probably in tears.
Okay, so you had something to distract your mind from...
Yeah. So then we got to the hospital, Sam met us in reception, and then we went up to the room that we were in, and I think it was at about 8 o'clock that they came in and started the process. So that 2 hours of waiting, though, was torture. I don't like waiting, especially not when, you're waiting for something so major.
So 2 hours, that is a long time to be waiting. And so where are you waiting, like in the room?
In the room that it all then happened in. So I don't know what it's called, the maternity suite? Yeah, in the maternity suite at Bunbury Hospital.
Okay.
But I had a little cry to Jason just to release those stress hormones that I was having.
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of hormones that are going crazy at that time anyway, on top of the whole process and everything that's going on for you, and also the fact that it's all of a sudden just happening.
Yes.
And you thought you had, a few weeks maybe. Yeah. So what was the process then for induction?
So I had I don't know which order this was in, but I had the Syntocin drip, and they broke my waters with the little hook thing. So I don't know which order that happened. I can't remember. But I have a funny story about the waters breaking. So the waters broke and, you think it's going to be a trickle or whatever, especially when they break it manually, it was just a gush. And then straight away I was like, oh my gosh, why did no one tell me that this would smell so bad? And then everyone else in the room was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, that is putrid. Like, I think I'm going to vomit. And they were like, what are you talking about? I was like, my waters. Is that what the smell is? And no one else could smell it except me. And I thought it was the most rank smell I've ever smelled in my life. I still remember it to this day.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Only you could smell?
Only I could smell it. Yeah, I was saying, because Jason is OCD, clean freak. Like, if anyone's going to smell a bad smell, it's him. And he was like, what are you talking about? There's no smell.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Do you think it was just like hypersensitive smell from being pregnant?
I have absolutely no idea, but it was the worst
and you're like, that is so
my
bad.
life.
Well, luckily nobody else can smell it.
I had to get one of the midwives was like, oh, here we go, I have an idea. And she got a flannel and put some essential oils on it. And she was like, just pop that on my shoulder. So I, it kept falling off, obviously. But every time it fell off, she came in and grabbed it and just put it on my nose so that I could get some relief from the smell.
So funny. So wait, hang on. Did they clean it all up then to try and get rid of a bit of the smell?
Well, Jason, the OCD freak who doesn't like to touch anything gross, was walking around behind me with a towel on the floor, with his feet shimmying it behind me because it just keeps trickling out when you've been induced. I don't know if that's normal for normal labour either, but it just kept coming out.
Yeah, I mean,
so
I don't know either what's
behind me.
That's so funny. Well, what's to come with giving birth to the baby and then having a baby. His OCD cleanliness is going to have to kind of go out the window.
I think you just let it go in that first moment with the waters.
So then how long until you started to, did you start to feel?
I got them straight away. Yeah.
Because of the Syntocin?
Yes. Yep. Which I also didn't quite realise. I think I knew all this, but I'd just forgotten it in the stress of it all. But yeah, so it was hard and fast. They were about 5 minutes apart from the beginning, and then pretty quickly 3 minutes apart, 2 minutes apart, the contractions. So in my mind, I was thinking, okay, this is hard and fast. It's not going to be long. But because I didn't know that that's just common for induction.
Yeah, I was going to say that's not the case with induction.
No.
It's just because it's the synthetic form of it, and you don't have the other hormones going through the body which trying to control.
Yeah.
You're not getting that flow.
Yeah.
And also, actually, even when they say about getting the waves of the
oxytocin.
Yeah, like even without an induction, they sort of talk about having these waves of where you'll get your contraction or your tensions or your surges or whatever you want to call it. They come up and then they go away. And that's actually not always the case either. They kind of come up and mine kind of like just stayed. I'm like, when's it going away? Yeah. And then it'll go and they'll come again really quickly. They can be all over the place. But for you, with a Syntocin, was it pretty
it was pretty bang on.
Yeah.
Like I'd have a contraction. I was having gas pretty much straight away because I was already not dealing. So I'd get the hang of breathing in the gas because I'm also really weird when it comes to breathing. I'm not that great at getting the rhythm. I don't know. I can breathe on the day-to-day.
In rhythm.
I know. It's really strange. So they had to basically teach me how to use the gas because I wasn't inhaling correctly. So I was getting the hang of the gas and then the contraction would go. So, he'd be like, oh, my God, thank God, have a second to breathe, and then it would be back again. So I had almost less rest time than I was having contraction time.
Wow.
So I spent a lot of time in the shower. I think I was there for 2 hours without realising. Now I feel really bad for how much water I wasted.
To be honest, I don't think that counts in labour. You just do what you need to do.
I wanted a water birth, so the fact that I wasn't even, that was not an option for me. I was like, okay, I need water. So, we were in the shower for quite a while. And
was that, were you putting it on your tummy and on your back?
No, it was on my
just
back.
Standing? Yeah.
Yeah, so I was sitting on a chair, leaning on a table, one of those little food tables that they have on the chairs. On the beds, so I was leaning on one of them. Yeah. It was pretty bad. It was not fun.
Did you have any music or anything like that? Or were you just...
Yeah, I had a playlist that was on, which I only really remember paying attention to, when Levi was physically born. The rest of the time it was just background music, which it was good, but didn't do much for me.
Yeah, I don't think it did much for me either. At one point, because we had the hypno tracks going, at one point the lady was saying something like, and just relax or something, and I was like, I'm trying to relax. And I was talking back to her, I was like, I don't think this is working.
Yeah. But also, so after 5 hours they checked me, and I think I was 2 centimetres, which was disheartening. Knowing that going into my next one, I don't want to be checked, unless it's certain that there'd be a big progression. And then after 7 hours, so when I was in the shower, it had been 7 hours, I turned to my midwife, and because I had made the rule I didn't want anyone to suggest intervention. I didn't want anyone to suggest epidural. I wanted to come up with it when I was ready. So, but I've been thinking it for 7 hours. So I turned and said to Sam, I was like, okay, you tell me my options. Like, what is the epidural process? What's it going to do to me? I need to know. Is it too late? Is it too soon? And she was like, okay, well, if you want to be checked again, we can check you if that will help you. But you're 100%, safe to have it. We would make the call. We'll wait for the anaesthetist, rada. So I decided to be checked again because I thought in my head, okay, if I'm more than 5, I'm not going to do it because I can do that. But I was 3. So it'd been 7 hours. I was 3 centimetres. So, maths-wise, in my head, I had like 20 to go. And I could not do that.
And I think that's the reason why a lot of women opt to not be checked because just doesn't work like that. You can't tell how long it's going to take.
Yeah, except the epidural was amazing.
I was going to say, but except for, yes.
And I think that's the difference. Like if I was to be induced again, I know what is kind of to come, roughly off the same thing. But if I was to have a natural labour again, that would be a whole different story, Yeah, so 3 centimetres, I said, yeah, give it to me. We waited maybe like 40 minutes. He came in. It took 3 attempts, so it took an hour and a half.
Oh, my God. And you're surging every 3 minutes through this?
It was every minute by then. So minute on, 30 seconds off.
I couldn't even imagine. Yeah. Like, you just don't want to be touched when you're going through that and then having someone...
Yeah, it was horrendous. At that point, I learnt to breathe pretty quickly because I was just sucking on the gas like there was no tomorrow. Jason's arms got a good clawing, poor thing. So he was sitting in front of me with his arms out. Like I was holding onto his forearms and clawing the shit out of them. I didn't even know I was doing it. So that was fun. But it got in eventually. I laid down and it was like the previous 7 hours hadn't even happened.
Oh my
we
God.
were so happy. Jason and I was sitting there and we just took a big sigh of relief, and he was like, thank God you had that epidural, because he was getting so stressed and he didn't know what to do. It was a nice relief for him as well to see me not in so much pain and turmoil. So
yeah, it would be
nice.
Very hard for the carers to watch their loved one being in pain, and it's also hard for them to know exactly what you are going through.
Exactly, yeah. And I was glad that Sam was there because, and this is the other reason I booked her, she would, come up to me and push on my back in a certain spot, and that would be the spot I needed it. And then she'd, wave Jason over and say, okay, this is where she wants it. And then he would push on my back on that spot. So she told him what to do, and it was what worked, because generally if Jason was to try something himself, I'd be like, that's not the right spot, get off me. He just didn't know, which is fine, but Sam knew. So that was really great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so how long now then were you going through your labour until you gave birth?
So it was another 7 hours on the bed, like laying down, relaxing, loving life.
So were you thinking, thank God of the epidural?
It was a good break, but I was also getting impatient, as you do, because I'd been there since 6 a.m. I reckon it was 9 p.m. when Sam checked me. She's like, oh, you're 9 centimetres. Let's start, practice pushing to try and get you ready and get your body moving, because I didn't want to labour on my back. I just wanted to be on all fours and use my legs, which I didn't realise meant that they had to turn the epidural down.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So that meant then only a partial epidural, because you need to be able to feel your legs. Which I'm sure they told me, but I do not recall. But that's fine, because I got to use my legs. So I was leaning on the back of the bed, pushing when they told me to for a while without, much happening. And then I started getting cramps in my right glute, which made things not fun. So I tried on my side, like laying on my side, but the cramps in my right glute just were so bad that I ended up not standing. They got me the toilet seat stool. So I was squatting over that, which was great. That was the exact position that felt comfortable, which is ironic because my glute was cramping and I was squatting. Yeah. And that was how it felt comfortable. But were you sitting on it?
Yeah, I suppose in between the in between the surges.
So it must have meant that your glute was able to relax or something during...
Yeah.
Yeah, but that is interesting.
Yeah, maybe
or
it needed to be engaged rather than at like an odd angle.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah.
When you had your epidural, like before you got to the pushing part, did you have like a sleep, a nap or something?
I tried, but no, not really. Yeah. No, I could still feel when the contractions were happening, and they were slightly uncomfortable, but not anything like before.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I could still feel them, and I knew they were happening, so it wasn't really the situation where I could relax too much. Yeah.
So you finished the rest of the labour on that seat,
on the
thing?
Seat, yeah. Gave birth to Levo on the seat.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, and little to my knowledge, had a massive tear.
Yeah.
That I didn't know.
Okay.
Like, the whole thing hurt, It was excruciating. It's not like I could locate where exactly or when the tear happened, just...
Yeah.
Because I was using my legs and the epidural wasn't working for that section, like they turned it down. I definitely felt all the ring of fire pain.
Yes, I remember yelling out, "No, I understand."
Yeah.
So you could feel the head coming out, and it definitely feels like a ring of fire, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah,
so
horrible.
Unusual.
And it was pretty funny. Jason and I had discussed many times that in the moment, when they say, "Dad, do you want to look?" that he wouldn't, because he's, doesn't like gruesome stuff, and I'm not the kind of person that would look either. I would now after you've had one it changes, but before I was like, oh hell no, I'm not looking. And in that moment they had a mirror down there and they were like, oh, we can see the head, Jason, do you want to see? And I laughed because I knew the answer, and he was like, oh yeah. And he got down there and had a look, and I almost covered it because I was like, what are you doing? Not that I cared about being private or anything, but I was like, what are you doing? No, you didn't want to. And he was like, no, I want to now. And he had a look and he was like, oh my gosh, you should look. And I was like, I don't know if I want to. Like, he'd changed the plan and I was so confused.
Did you look?
I did. I had a quick glance. I was like, no, I don't need to see it. I don't need to. It was just all a bit too much. I was already feeling it. I didn't need to see it.
Yeah, I was going to say the having the visual of what you're feeling. You're like, yes, no, that makes sense.
Yeah. And I don't particularly like gory stuff myself, even though that was my own body, and it's just.
I think it's fine. Everybody's different in what they want.
Yeah.
It is quite funny that his mind did flip, because I think what we think prior to going in is so different to when you're in the situation.
I think his mind flipped the second my waters were broken.
Really?
He lost all his OCD tendencies and was just straight into let's mop up these waters, let's have a look down there, let's,
care for you.
Who cares?
Yeah, I know, right?
He just didn't care about anything that usually would have grossed him out.
Yeah. Well, he's there to care for you and to welcome his new child to the world, so that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And yes, fellas, if you don't like poo, or ladies, if you don't like poo, tough, it happens. And often a lot of it. So your baby was delivered, and did you pull up onto your...
Yes, yep. So Sam grabbed him and handed him straight to me. But it was also, because they'd seen I'd torn, it was a get straight to the bed scenario. So, she handed him to me, but then kind of, helped me over to the bed and helped me onto the bed straight away so that I could hold him. I didn't know that I'd torn yet. I thought they were just, cleaning me up, getting the placenta thing done, but they were, looking at the tear and calling the obstetrician who was on call.
Was there a lot of blood coming through
No, I
then?
don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. They didn't say anything about blood loss, so there mustn't have been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you had a 3rd degree tear, is that right?
Yeah, 3C.
3C. So what's the C bit about?
I Googled this last night. So 3rd degree is when it's from, the whole way into your anal sphincter. Is that how you say it?
Yes.
Yep. And then the C is how deep. So there's A, B, C, D. So it was almost all the way through, up as well, I suppose, yeah.
So it's going through skin and muscle.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I went through, I suppose, 3 layers of 4. Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
So vagina down to anal sphincter, but
so
not all the way through
it was about a millimetre or 2 away from the anal sphincter. So that if it went all the way through, it would be a 4th degree. So it was that close to. Yeah.
I mean, it's in hindsight, it's not even really worth sort of going back and thinking about it, but was the discussion around episiotomy ever discussed?
No, I do know that the obstetrician who was on at the time. I know that he came and knocked on the door. So Levi was born at 11:35. I know that at about 11 he came and knocked on the door, and Sam and him had a discussion outside of the room, and he was due to knock off soon. So he was apparently having the discussion suggesting an episiotomy because things weren't progressing fast enough. And Sam politely declined because she knew that I wouldn't want that, and I'd said to her to, make the decision. If I'm doing fine, I don't want any intervention. So she politely declined because it wasn't in her opinion that I needed one, which is good. I'm glad I didn't get one because I think the process of that for me would have been another big thing,
So it's interesting. I wonder why he thought that would maybe happen.
I think maybe he was trying to help it along, obviously, no ill intention. He was trying to help it along, but maybe before he went as well, so that there would be someone there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go into talking about what happened then with the tear, because I also want to hear what Sam sort of said about recovery and recovering from having a tear versus recovering from an epision. I don't know if she ever sort of discussed any of that with you, but let's go first.
Yeah.
What happened then? They had to obviously stitch it up.
Yeah, so I had Levi with me for about an hour, and then I had to go, or maybe not even an hour, and then I had to go into surgery. So they took me down to the room. They gave me...
Morphine?
Yes, morphine. Okay. I was thinking another word. Anyway, they gave me morphine and, the other things you have to have because obviously you can't be knocked out. And they stitched it up, and then... So that was about 2 hours.
Okay. So you didn't feel it then, the stitching, because they gave you medication?
Yes.
Okay.
So because my epidural was still intact, they actually just reconnected that. But then they had to give me morphine for some reason as well, which I'm unsure of.
So I wonder if that was all because of it being such a big tear, whereas in smaller tears, and I think sometimes they might just stitch it then and there, and it's probably quite painful.
Definitely bumped up the epidural, so I couldn't feel it. And then they also had taken the catheter out before I started pushing. Is that what they do? Yeah. So then they had to put that back in, which was also another kind of complicated thing. So I got stitched up and then came back to the room. So I was back in the room with Levi at maybe 2:30 in the morning. Exhausted.
I was going to say you'd be absolutely exhausted by that point.
Yep.
And was Levi aware?
He was, yes. Jason had given him a feed of colostrum that I'd expressed, thank God. And then we tried to breastfeed, but just, wasn't happening. Yep. I was tired, he was tired. So I gave him a feed of colostrum, and then Jason had to go because at Bunbury Hospital the partner can't stay.
Oh, I didn't know.
So luckily they'd got him a room downstairs in their little kind of emergency doctor's overnight rooms, which they don't offer very often, but because it was so late and he was going to be back in a few hours and they knew we lived in Dunsborough, they didn't want him driving. So that was good. But so Levi and I got moved to a very small little other room to sleep, and we both woke up at 5. I woke up just staring at him, for probably 30 minutes, waiting for him to wake up, and then he woke up and we had our first feed.
Oh.
Yeah, so that was lovely.
Isn't it such a surreal moment? Like seeing your baby, first time just staring at me did that just happen?
Yeah, and because of the whirlwind of holding him and then having to go get stitched, I didn't let myself think about it too much at the time because it's just what had to happen. I'm a very pragmatic person, don't dwell on what you can't control kind of thing. Yeah. So, I hadn't thought about the separation period until I was staring at him and I was like, oh, my God, that sucks. I've already lost 2 hours.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was fine by then.
Yeah. And how did that first feed go?
It was good. He, I didn't have anything to base it off really, but it was good. He latched. He had a feed. He fell back to sleep. And then I got the urge to vomit. So I rang the bell really quickly to try and get a nurse in. I ended up getting him into the little bassinet on the side right in time. I literally popped him down, turned around, and vomited all over the floor.
What was that from?
From the morphine.
I was going to say, was that a side effect from the medication?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And was it just a one-off, or were you still quite nauseous?
I spent the morning vomiting.
Oh, you poor thing.
Yeah, so I was quite upset about that because I'd specifically said I didn't want morphine as well as a drug option, and I didn't really understand why I had to have it for the stitches.
That is interesting.
Which I still don't understand.
So, yeah, especially if you had the epidural in.
Like, I'm sure there was a reason, but I don't know.
It's hard to know. Yeah, I mean, vomiting and nausea is a super, super common side effect of morphine.
If that is a common side effect of something, I will get it.
Yeah, right. And the implication on breastfeeding?
It just, every time he fed, straight after I needed to vomit. So it just made it a little bit stressful from the beginning.
Okay.
And I wanted to be able to cuddle him after and have those nice, chest on, like, skin-to-skin moments, but they were quite short-lived with a little vomit.
So that only lasted for, what, like a day or half a day?
Like 12 hours.
Okay.
Yeah. We then got transferred to Bustleton at about midday. I think I vomited once in the ambulance, and then that might have been the last one. Yeah.
I say only, but my God. I mean, you're exhausted. You've now had a tear, which we're going to talk about recovery.
Yeah.
You've got a fresh little baba newborn trying to breastfeed and vomiting for 12 hours.
Yeah.
Horrendous.
So I also, visiting hours weren't open till 7, and I said to the nurse, I was like, I need my husband to come in here. Like, I need him to be able to hold the baby if I'm feeding and need to vomit. So I called Jason and they let him come up.
Good.
So that was good.
Good on you for, like, sticking up for something.
Yeah.
Like,
I was like, I'm not ringing that bell and throwing him in a bassinet like he's 4 hours old or, 6 hours old. Yeah.
So when you got to Bustleton, were you then put into one of the units where he can stay? Jason can stay?
Yeah.
Such a good hospital.
Oh, yeah. That's exactly what we wanted.
Yeah. You need your partner there.
Yeah.
Like, you're both trying to learn how to do this. And
especially overnight. Like, you need to physically recover.
Yes.
So you can't, and you know how it is, you can't actually sleep that well when they're right there because they're right there.
Yeah.
You want to make sure they're alive.
Yes, so you're checking on them every 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Did Levi do like that 24 hours or 12 hours of like solid sleeping, like had a big rest?
Yeah. They were also a little bit worried. He was a little bit yellow. He was a little bit jaundiced. But I think it's just because he wasn't quite actually ready to come out, with the induction 2 weeks early. So,
and you just kept feeding him, feeding to get it.
Him and
moving,
sitting him kind of in the sunlight in the bassinet. Yeah, my midwife, Sam, she wasn't too concerned. It was just on their radar. Yeah.
I think that's super common for bubbers to have that. Yeah. And then like night 2 or 3, did you have that experience where Levi was awake all night long?
Yeah. I don't really know what you would count as night 2 because night 1 was, 11, like midnight.
Yeah.
But it was probably night 3. I reckon the first night we were in Bustleton, he slept mediumly, like it was fine. He woke up and I was ready. I was like, okay, I'm ready. Come on, give him to me. I was so excited. And then that second night, he didn't sleep very much. And it was, changing the nappy through the middle of the night. He straight away from that first day despised having his nappy changed. That never really got better.
Okay.
Yeah. He's just always hated it. Well, he's fine now. He's almost 3. Yeah, it lasted a long time, the screeching when you change his nappy and give him a bath. He just did not like being naked.
No.
Which is fine. Obviously understandable.
So funny. We are so in that still.
Yeah.
He's like 18 months or nearly 19 months.
Yeah.
And despises it. Just absolutely hates nappy changes.
Yeah.
And baths.
I mean, in saying that, literally I had a wrestle with him this morning because he'd done a poo in his pyjamas and then I realised how low it was sitting and the nappy had come undone.
Oh.
So I was trying to, get him still, and in that he thought that was so fun. Oh. But then he got angry because I was grabbing his legs. So, nappy changes are still not ideal. I'm like, when can you toilet train? He obviously can, but he's not interested
yet. He's not ready.
No.
Oh, funny.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's go back to the tear.
Yeah.
What was the recovery like for you with this? What was the process to actually heal?
I don't think I really felt it for the first 2 to 3 days because of the medication still in your system and, they're giving you medication to numb it still. When it came time to do a poo, I became really aware.
Yeah, right.
I'd been having, meloxicol, is that what it's called? And whatever. Movicol, yep. Thank you.
And Coloxal.
That's it. I was like, I know I've got both words here. Yeah, I was having those, routinely to try and make it all happen, but it was more so after I had done past my first stool that I noticed how difficult it would be to clean.
Oh, so it's more the cleaning process.
Yeah,
yes.
Like I was obviously extremely nervous doing it and I put the pressure and It was slow. It was good. It was exactly how it should be. But it was afterwards I was stressed that I wasn't clean properly. So, I was trying with a mirror to look, and I was getting a damp flannel, and then I also was scared to touch it because what if it hurt? And, yeah.
It's such an unknown down there already afterwards.
And you can't see it. You can't just look and check. So it's very confusing.
Yeah, it's not like having a wound on your arm.
No, exactly, yeah. But I didn't find it, uncomfortable to sit or stand or any of that. That was all still fine. And then when we came home, I suppose I became more aware of it around day 5 when I was sitting a lot, breastfeeding, and it just became quite, I suppose, swollen, but I couldn't see. It just felt swollen. But I was having Sam visit, I think it was every day for the first week and then every second day for the second week. So she was checking it every time and it was fine every time. And then I reckon around day 10, it started to get real itchy. Okay. Really itchy. It was just the stitches dissolving.
Yeah, okay.
But it was unbearable itching. And because you can't scratch it. It's just that torture. Yeah. So
that does sound like torture.
Yeah. So I concocted my own ice pack undies scenario. I had just from Kmart an eye patch, a gel eye patch that you put in the freezer for headaches. So that's now not used for my head anymore. And I was, wearing undies with a pad and then the ice pack and then another layer of undies to hold it in. I was wearing that around all the time just to numb it, which worked a treat.
Came up with your own little DIY there.
Which now I've found the same thing in a proper form and stock in my store. So,
I want to talk about that as well because it's funny, there are things available out there to help with these
now.
But
they probably were back then. I just didn't.
You don't know about them, or they're not easily found or accessible. Yeah. Or maybe they didn't exist. Who knows?
I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah. And when you peed or anything like that, did that sting at all? Like the acids?
I think they did. Yes, it definitely did. We also didn't have one of those handheld shower heads because we were renovating our house and our shower was terrible. So, everyone was like, just use your handheld shower head. I was like, I don't have one. So we did get a spray bottle, garden bottle, and just put water in that. But that was fine for getting the area wet, but it still wasn't, if you go too direct on the spray, it would have hurt, and then too wide, and you barely feel it. You just feel like you're wetting the area but not cleaning it. So
I also saw this morning in our stock one of those little bottles. Yeah. I don't know what they're called, but they're
peri-wash bottle.
Peri-wash bottles. So they've got a little nozzle head to be able to angle.
Yeah. So you can turn it upside down and then squeeze. And it's like a gentle flow coming out, which is that's actually the first product that got me actually thinking I have to start this store. Yeah.
Okay. And you can put a little bit of witch hazel and stuff like that in there even to help with the cleansing. And it can, if you have even any kind of greys or anything like that down there, just squirting the water there while you're weeing to neutralise it can actually help if you're finding that to be painful as well. So
also, if you get gastro, you know how it starts to really burn when you go to the toilet, when you've been to the toilet 10 million times, and then it hurts to wipe.
Yes.
You can use it for that. So, it's not just for pregnancy.
You'll be getting that out with your boy.
Yes. Oh, my gosh. Good idea.
Let's just squirt your bum.
Yeah.
And so how long did it take to actually heal completely?
I reckon by 3 weeks the stitches were dissolved, but I was still very aware of it. Yeah, okay. So not that it was it was easy to clean and everything by then, I'd gotten over the fear of touching and wiping the area. But, it was definitely still aware on my mind by then. But I did go see women's health physio at 6 weeks.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. And did you have to do some kind of rehab work to build muscles back up?
Yeah, I just did, your own pelvic floor stuff that she gave me the exercises for. She did say that I was close to having a prolapse, mini prolapse. So, because I wanted to get back to doing my PT with my friend who's a pre- and postnatal specialist, a personal trainer. So I wanted to get back to going to that. She said no, pretty much, not yet. So I had to go back in 2 more weeks and check up. And it wasn't until 12 weeks that I could return. Yeah. And then that was also a slow return. So it was lucky that I had a specialised personal trainer.
Yeah, I think we want to get straight back into it and get back to prior to, but no. These things need to take time. I mean, the body's just gone through a huge process.
I think I mainly wanted to get to it so that I had one thing that was just mine to leave the house and do.
Yeah, it's for the mental.
Yeah, but
release.
I did start. I started back doing Pilates instead.
Okay.
Yeah, and then eventually got there. She did recommend getting one of those pessary rings. Is that what they're called? I didn't know much about them or about the process of the 3C tear, and I said, I'll see how I go. And now I wish I did it.
Okay.
Yeah, but
so is that more to strengthen, like you're holding it in and?
Yeah, I think. Like there's been a few instances probably in the year or two after having Levi where I would say I was walking and I sneeze, and a little bit trickles when I didn't realise I needed to go to the toilet. Yeah. So I don't have, full incontinence or anything. I went to, I did like a bit of a core program with my personal trainer when she launched that. So I did that for 4 weeks to kind of retrain the pelvic floor.
Yeah.
So that was good.
Such an important process, ladies.
Yeah.
You need to keep looking after your pelvic floor, and we need to just keep doing it ongoing, really.
Yeah, and I'm lucky that there was so much awareness around it when it happened to me, because I think that was only still like a newish thing that people were talking about. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to sort of jump now over back to that breastfeeding situation for you. So you found the breastfeeding easier to like getting the latching and all of that sort of things. Is that correct?
Yeah. He didn't latch to, I think it was my left, very well at the beginning, but one of the lovely midwives made it her mission to get the latch on both perfect before I was leaving hospital.
Okay.
So that was great. She was, gentle and helped me through it. So that was really good. For the first few weeks, it was good. My nipples got really cracked like everyone's do, but I didn't quite realise the difference with mine was because I'd had a breast reduction six years ago, so I had it in 2015, 7 years ago. I didn't know if I'd be able to breastfeed, so, I was happy when I could, but I didn't realise that my nipples were then flat. Yeah, I just didn't know that was a thing.
I didn't know either. I am with you there. We don't, like, definitions of like what's a flat nipple.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So now I know because I got it. But so I just didn't realise that was causing issues.
Yeah. Can make it a little bit harder for them to get on the right latch.
Yeah, like he'd get on a latch easy, but it wouldn't last very long. And I didn't realise that was probably due to my nipples. Now, there's all different nipple shields out there and stuff, so I'm sure I'll be able to find a flat or inverted nipple shield eventually in the future when I next have a child. But also, Levi vomited at every single feed. Not a little tiny little, spit up. It was a full-on vomit. So everything that was going in was basically coming out in my mind, which was really stressful.
Did that start early on?
That started at probably 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not a newborn, like you feed, you were vomiting and your baby's vomiting.
Yeah, I know. That would have been lovely.
Could you imagine? Okay, but 2 weeks still, very
young. And then, so, when they're old enough to start taking Infocol and stuff like that, I started doing that stuff. At 6 weeks, my nipples were cracked. He was vomiting. I was tired. It wasn't working. And I thought, he's probably not getting anything. I just really was unaware of how much he was consuming. So we gave him a bottle. We were going to mix feed. So we did that for a few weeks. And I was pumping 3 times a day. So I'd feed, have a 30-minute pump, feed, have a 30-minute pump, and then maybe give him a bottle to give my boobs a break. And then a pump again. I was just feeding, pumping on cycle. But after 4 weeks of trying that, I was only getting 30 mils a day pumping. So that's over 3 to 4 pumping sessions of half hour each.
30 mil in total?
Which I didn't realise wasn't much. You don't know until you start talking to people about it. So I realised that wasn't anything. So then I was stressed about how much he was actually getting.
Was he putting on weight?
He was, but not very much. He was a very small baby.
Okay. And was he having wet nappies and stuff still?
Yeah.
Okay, so they weren't concerned about him?
No.
Okay.
No, but I was, because if I'm only pumping 30 mils, then what on earth is he getting?
Well, the interesting thing is we don't know what he would be getting. So he might have been way more efficient than the pump. And also because he's on there, you're releasing different hormones because you're connecting, so you might be producing more milk.
Yeah.
So it's very hard to tell. I know that some people who just don't get anything really from the pump.
Yeah.
But can breastfeed
Yes.
Bubba no problem.
Yeah. So the other factor was that whenever we were out in public and I'd feed, he started at, I reckon, 8 weeks. He started just being real fussy. And when I say fussy, I mean like, you know, you'd get your boob out, pop their head there. He would just be fighting it, shifting his head back and forth, screaming. If he could say, "Get away from me," he would have been. But he was using his hands, pushing it away.
Oh, wow.
Screaming, like getting so angry that he couldn't find it kind of thing. It was really strange. But so basically I was sitting in public wherever I was, boob out, child screaming bloody murder. So everyone was looking.
Oh.
And then I'd end up giving up, you know, putting my boob away, sitting him up. He'd be absolutely distraught and I would just have to go home because I'd even try in the car and he still wouldn't be settled. So that was a really stressful, like 4 weeks of not knowing what on earth was going on. I had a bit of a store in the freezer by then of some breast milk, so I started bringing that out with us. And then by then a doctor had told me to use thickener in it to try and help his vomiting. So I was using thickener, and then by 12 weeks he just refused my boob altogether. We woke up on the day of 12 weeks, went for the morning feed. He pretty much said no thank you.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he was refusing the boob. Was he taking the bottle with the breast milk?
He was taking the bottle with the breast milk, yeah. So that's why that's why now I've pretty much come to the conclusion myself that it was the nipple.
Right.
He was struggling
Just
to
not-
latch to the nipple.
Right.
Yeah, and that was with nipple shields and everything, because the nipple shields didn't really do anything for me because I didn't realise that I had a flat nipple and they weren't made for that.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
yeah,
so,
it was just so confusing.
Oh, it's so challenging.
Yeah.
Breastfeeding is
Yeah.
not always that easy.
No.
Just pop them on and they'll go. It's
Yeah.
just such a challenge.
And it is also hard mentally when you're seeing, because I was at a mother's group by then, and the first mother's group was at 6 weeks. I was exclusively breastfeeding. That week I'd started introducing the bottle, and everyone else in my group was also exclusively breastfeeding except for one lady who was formula feeding. Unfortunately, I don't know much about her scenario. But then as the 6 weeks progressed, you know, you go to the session, everyone else is feeding and I start whipping out a bottle, or I could see the change based on everyone else not changing.
Yeah.
So everyone else was successfully breastfeeding, you know, whether they were having their struggles or not, they were getting their boobs out and it was just happening, you know.
I think that's the hardest thing is
Yeah.
the mothers groups. I don't know that they're always the best thing because
Yeah.
a lot of that comparison stuff
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of advice still thrown around from
Yeah, well,
everyone, but-
to be fair, my mother's group was amazing and I'm still friends with
beautiful.
a good handful of them
Beautiful.
now, and they've been a great support. But it was
the
just the
comparing.
obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What happened next? Like, what was really going on then?
So by the time we decided to go onto formula at 12 weeks, booked him into the doctors because I wanted to make sure that I was using the right formula and try and figure out this spewing because I was not having a bar of it. I was so done. So the doctor said, okay, let's just give him, 2-ish weeks on the formula, see if the spewing reduces or increases, So we did that. He was basically drinking a whole bottle and vomiting a whole bottle from my visual estimation anyway. And then we went on to goat's milk. No, it was A2 first. We tried the A2 formula. It didn't work. So we gave that 2 weeks because each time we gave it 2 to 3 weeks. So then we went to goat's milk formula, which seemed to work for a month. His vomiting didn't stop, but it reduced. He wasn't vomiting as much. Also, he was like burping better now.
Okay.
Which I think the gas thing was a big issue before. I was always trying to burp him, but it wasn't really happening. It wouldn't be a burp, it would be a vomit.
Vomit.
Yes. Yeah, so I don't really know time-wise where I am in this, but it was at about 6 months that we started introducing, I think they're called Lactase Drops. So they're lactose-free drops, so you can pop in the formula. So we're popping them into goat's milk, even though that is lactose-free-ish. That didn't really work. And then at about 7 months, he got a cold, just a run-of-the-mill little cold, but his cough lasted. It lasted like weeks, his cold was long gone and he was coughing really bad. And then he got a rash around his mouth. He was quite a rashy kid. Like I have eczema, Jason, gets allergies. So we just put it down to he's got allergies too. And one day though, the rash started to look real bad and I was getting a bit concerned. So I booked him into just whatever doctor I could get. luckily, it was a lovely doctor, and she said, she's like, based on the fact that he has a cough, he's vomiting, and he has a rash, I think it's a complete cow's milk protein allergy. And I was like, well, we're already giving him goat's milk. And she said, no, there's still the protein present in goat's milk. I was like, oh, God, so what options are we? Because, like, we've already tried them all. And then she told me there was 3, and they were allergy-specific formulas. So you could only get one of them in Dunsborough. And it was the most expensive one. So we tried it, and it worked instantly.
Was that on the prescription?
No.
No, okay.
No. Yeah.
But you saw straight away.
Straight away, stop vomiting.
Wow.
Yeah. Like, the vomiting literally stopped.
Oh, my God. And what was your thought then? Like,
I was so relieved. I was like, how on earth did this take 8 months? Like, that is ridiculous. I also, over the following weeks, started to then feel a lot of guilt because it was a goat's milk protein allergy. I never stopped eating cheese, milk, bread, not bread, cheese, milk, chocolate. I was eating lactose and milk the entire time I was breastfeeding him.
Yeah.
So then came in the thoughts of we could have breastfed, which is not certain because of my breast reduction, the flat nipple. Like, there was a lot of other factors, but it could have been a factor if I'd cut it out.
Yeah.
But I just didn't. I don't know. My sister definitely suggested it to me. I don't know why I didn't listen.
I think, well, firstly, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And first baby,
Yeah.
lots of advice that you're trying to filter through, and just like a lot of emotions and stuff, and you're just doing your best.
Yeah.
So that's sort of where you're at with it. I think it's just a case of that women need so much more support with breastfeeding, and if we all were able to have more consults, maybe with an LC and tracking over a certain period of time to really coach and problem solve and work through these things to get to what the root cause of it is, because it's really hard to know what's going on.
And then also, in the defence of my private midwife, everything was absolutely great for those first 6 weeks that I had all of those regular checkups with her. And then it was January and she went away on a family vacation, which she gets to do maybe once a year because obviously you've got births every month. So those 2 to 3 weeks when it really started to break down, I wasn't in contact with the private midwife. So not that had anything to do with it, but like the support that I had already had previously, I didn't have in that time where it then so happened to be crunch time. So I think I should have reached out to a lactation consultant, but I just didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't. Yeah, I just put it down to my breast reduction, really.
Yeah.
So,
well, like I said, there's so much going on, and it's hard to know where to go and what to do.
It's nice in hindsight to look at what you could have done.
Exactly, and I think hindsight is not really helpful. And there's no point in dwelling on it, really.
Yeah.
Were there other signs? Like, was it mainly the rash and the vomiting, or was there like cramping and pain and discomfort?
In him?
Yeah.
He was extremely unsettled as a baby. He would sleep fine. Like, he would sleep good for a baby. They all wake up through the night, obviously. But he did have a lot of trouble, like, passing gas, and he would sit, but tummy time was not a thing that existed for him. Every time I put him on his stomach from, day one when you start it, every time I'd put him on his stomach, he would vomit. So then it started this mental thing in his mind where that was not a place he wanted to be because he was going to vomit and generally pop his head in it as well. So it was a real trigger.
Yeah.
So because he didn't do tummy time, he also didn't roll, and then he subsequently didn't crawl either. So he didn't actually crawl till he was 2.
Oh, wow.
But he walked at 14 months.
So when they say you should crawl before you walk, not the case.
Bum scoot, to pull up, to walk.
However they
They'll
get
find
there.
their own way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's so, clever little boy.
Yeah. That caused a lot of stress to me as well, as it does, because you're watching everyone else happily crawling around, climbing on things, rolling over. And, like, he just wasn't adventurous because he wasn't a crawler, which is good. He wasn't one to crawl away from me. I didn't have to worry about him crawling off the top of a wall or none of that. But, on the other hand, it caused then a separation anxiety because he didn't want to be away from me, and yeah.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
And how is he now, like with the milks, dairies?
Yeah, he's pretty good. He's basically, so we did the milk ladder dairy reintroduction at about 14 months. That worked well. When he was maybe 18 months, his rash reappeared around his mouth. So he was fully back onto milk and dairy products by then, but the rash reappeared, and it lasted for about 6 months. That's a whole different story of, diagnosing that. But one doctor did say maybe it's a lactose thing. So we went to see a dietitian down here that we got a referral to, and yeah, so now she confirmed, she said it's definitely not allergic, but it's mildly lactose intolerant. So now he drinks, normal milk, but it's lactose-free milk.
Okay.
And he has yogurt, but I get the lactose-free yogurt. I do give him, when we're at a birthday party and there's cake, I'll give him the cake. It's fine. We're not that strict on it. And, if he gets chocolate at someone's house, whatever, he'll just have a bit runnier poos later. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's the enzyme then that breaks down the dairy, the milk. It's interesting. Do either you or your partner have a lactose intolerance?
We both, yeah. I mean, pretty much, yeah. We just deal with it, we drink almond or oat milk instead of normal milk in our coffees. But then I also eat chocolate and ice cream and whatever else with no issue. But I will get bloated, or, I think it was a little while ago, I had a chocolate thick shake somewhere, and oh my gosh, I got cramps, I got the runs. It was terrible. And I was like, oh, okay, yep, I am actually... Yeah, small doses only.
Yeah, there's a huge portion of the population, like worldwide, that can't digest lactose. We lose that ability.
So it does make sense.
Yeah. And how lucky now that you can do things like lactose-free milk and yogurt and probably chocolate and all the good things.
Yeah.
Ice cream.
It's good, yeah. I mean, the other day we were at his grandparents' house and everyone was having a bowl of ice cream after dinner because it was a treat for the family thing, and I said, oh, is there anything else? Because lactose-free, I just don't want to do that before bed tonight. He already doesn't sleep very well at other people's houses. So we gave him jelly. And luckily we told everyone else, all the older kids, to call their ice cream jelly. Because, he's 3. Tantrums can be over anything. So everyone was hiding their bowl. It was in a deep bowl, and they were eating it down low and calling it jelly.
Oh,
so it's good. You just got to have everyone on board.
Yeah. Oh, poor little man. Tantrums. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, we could have given it to him, but I didn't want to deal with it. I didn't want it to be a factor of him not sleeping that night.
No. Beautiful. Well, I think we're kind of coming to the part now where we want to talk about your business.
Yes.
So you've now got an online... your new baby, your online business, Nurture Her Boutique.
Yeah.
And so... with this business, first of all, why did you start it?
Well, my initial thought came in because my sister launched her doula business, which we generally follow the same path in the way of what kind of industry we go into. We were both florists together right before this, and then now she started this doula business, and I was looking for a little congratulations present. I wanted something I could put into her toolkit that she takes to births and stuff. So I was looking around Dunsborough, went into all the little shops, and I was struggling hard. It was like there's pregnancy tea, or there's raspberry leaf tea, or nipple cream. I'm like, where's the middle? Where's all the stuff you need for birth and postpartum? I just couldn't find it. So I gave her a book, which is fine. Books are great. But that's just not what I wanted to give her. And then I was having a facial that I was booked in for that day. And in the time where I was basically asleep, it was bliss, I thought to myself, I need to start this shop. I needed all this stuff. But when I found it was too late, or by the time I thought, I could really do with that breast pump, it was going to take 2 weeks to get here. So, I just thought of it straight away, and I thought of the name in that session, in that sleeping facial session. So that was pretty perfect.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And what's her name? Is she down here doing boutique?
Yeah.
Boutique. Oh, my God. Doing doula.
Yeah, her name's Amanda Rose, and her business is Birth of You.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
And in the whole southwest area, she do just Dunsborough, Boston?
She's only just started out as well, so we both started the businesses around around May. Yeah.
May, yeah.
Yeah, so she's done one birth, and she's got another one coming up. Yeah,
that's so
just
exciting.
Starting to take off.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing all of your story with us and talking through all of these sort of challenges that we all sort of go through.
Yeah, no worries.
Oh, before we wind up, I just want to know, what was sort of, out of all the things that you've got in your store, what sort of tool do you think was like your biggest lifesaver if you used it or could have used it?
Out of things in my store, I reckon the Peri wash bottle, but then paired with, there's a Peri spray. So that takes the sting away and makes sure it's like sanitary and clean.
So what's in the Peri spray?
Witch hazel, aloe, and there's something else, but I can't remember the name of it.
I was going to say, mainly those two things there, for
Yeah.
soothing and cleaning.
Yeah, it's a little bottle, so you could put it in your pocket basically, or in your handbag. You know, it's not a big obnoxious container of witch hazel in your handbag when you need to go out.
Hey, let me just bring out my Peri spray.
Yeah, so I reckon those two things.
Great. So if anyone wants to find you or any of your amazing products online, where can they find you?
On Instagram, Nurture Her Boutique. I'm also on Facebook, and then there's my website, nurtureherboutique.com.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Jess, for joining us. It's been great.
Yeah, it's been great. Thank you.